Welcome to the Nest Podcast, your home for nerd entertainment and sports talk, where your hosts, Brandon and Zach, hash out what's happening in video games and sports every week. Enjoy the show.
What is up, guys, and welcome to a special edition of the Nest Podcast. This is our special coverage of The Mandalorian, and we've brought Chris from Locker Room Talk on to nerd out with us and talk about some Star Wars and what we liked and didn't like about Disney Plus's first adventure into the Star Wars series.
And was there stuff we didn't like?
And well, I'm sure there are some things that some people didn't like. Maybe not us in particular, but
okay, all right.
I have some gripes.
There you go. See, leave it to Zach. He's always grumpy about something.
Okay, I'm interested.
For me personally, I think this is one of my favorite space westerns of all time. Because that's the vibe that I get, is that it's a John Wayne movie directed by Quentin Tarantino set in space. That's the kind of feel that I get, at least from the graphics that they use going in.
I didn't see any bare female feet, so I don't think it's a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Good point.
That might be true, but Gina Carano was in it, so there's hope that she might take her boots off.
And I think she did really good too.
She did.
I enjoyed her character.
Yeah, I was happy to see her come back too, instead of just that one-off episode. It was nice to give her a little bit more depth and meaning.
Yeah, because me and Wallow had actually talked about that whenever he was like, yeah, but she's only going to be there once and then she's gone. And I actually pulled it up on the IMDb and she was listed on 3 episodes. So I was like, nope, she's coming back at some point. So this will be cool because, I enjoyed. I mean, they had to have some characters to kind of flesh it all out. It couldn't just be, Mandalorian and Baby Yoda every episode all the time. But I did have you ever did or followed Lone Wolf and Cub?
No, I haven't.
Okay, Lone Wolf and Cub was it's an old movie, samurai movie from way back, and that turned into a manga. A lot of the guys that I hang out with at the tattoo shop and stuff like that, we've all read the Lone Wolf and Cub series and stuff, and it was Western, as you say. It did have a Western feel, but it was also very Lone Wolf and Cub-ish kind of feel for it. That's one of the guys who was like, it's just Lone Wolf and Cub in space in Star Wars. I was like, but that's still not bad.
And you said it was samurai type stuff?
Yeah. The story was a samurai taking care of a small child.
That just further adds to my point that it's like. Further adds to my point that it's just like a Quentin Tarantino, because he would add some kind of samurai shit in there.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyway, I thought it was great. Zach apparently has some gripes. We'll get into them as we go on. I did want to kind of take it episode by episode because it's over. Season 1 is over. We've seen all that we're going to see. So there's no real reason to try to guess what's going to happen in between weeks because we fucking know. So, for those that haven't seen it, spoiler alert, obviously, if you've tuned in and clicked on something that says Mandalorian on it, then chances are you knew what you were getting into. But anyway, it kicked off with an episode that they just appropriately called The Mandalorian, and it introduced us to the character. Now, a lot of people out there might not know or might not understand the lore of the Mandalorians, so I felt like this was a really good introduction into it, because a lot of casual Star Wars fans probably only knew of Boba Fett and Jango Fett,
who were not actually Mandalorians.
No, but they just wore the armor.
Yes.
But that's all you ever see, and that's why whenever you see the Mandalorian and he's wearing that badass armor, you're like, oh, okay, I kind of get where this is from. But it goes to show that he's also a man of honor and kind of goes by that creed, lives his life by that. One of the coolest things that I thought from episode 1, and that was one of the things that when we went to work I was talking about, was how badass IG-11 was, but I thought that it was a waste that at the end of that episode, Mando offed him. Foreshadowed that he was going to be a big character later on, I guess, but
Well, not really, because you thought it was just a
A
one-off.
one-off. Yeah.
Yeah, you just put a hole in them, and then it was done, and it was just a droid, and you just kind of moved on. You didn't really know he was coming back until way later.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess what I mean by that is you knew that type of droid now exists, so you could possibly see it pop up more often. Maybe more of them were bounty hunters or whatever. I don't know. I kind of got the feeling that whenever Mandalorian killed him at the end of that episode, it was like, okay, well, he killed one, but more of these things are probably going to be coming after this Baby Yoda.
Yes.
So, which I already said it, Baby Yoda. That was the big shock at the end of episode 1. And Zach, what did you think whenever you saw this little green thing with big ears on your screen for the first time?
It was kind of ruined for me because I didn't watch the first episode till the internet had already clamped on the Baby Yoda memes. So I already knew it existed. But I mean, still, it was pretty interesting to see, like for whatever reason, that species is very prized, and the people who originally hire Mandalorian to capture Baby Yoda want him desperately, and it was pretty interesting to see and to think of where they could go with that in mind. So it was cool because we don't know a whole lot about that race. Obviously, we know of Yoda and how great he is, but other than that, this is the only other character in that race in the Star Wars universe that I know of.
Well, there's Yaddle.
Yeah. You saw two. You saw two throughout the entire run of Star Wars. Was Yoda and Yaddle.
And Yaddle was on the High Jedi Council, and she just stepped away, right?
So yeah, you just saw it. You saw her in one movie, and then in the next movie she's gone.
So to me it seems like it might be more likely that this is a descendant of Yaddle and not Yoda, since we know Yoda's dead.
Maybe because I mean it plays into the because here's the thing: the Mandalorian is tapping into so many different kind of avenues. You've got things that you've learned about from Star Wars Rebels, the Clone Wars. It's used the entire universe story wise and have brought parts in. But like the doctor that was in the first episode of The Mandalorian, the patch that he was wearing was actually the same patch that was worn by the people on Camino where they did the clones. So, that's been kind of the thing is Baby Yoda a clone, or is it an actual, offspring kind of thing? So they haven't really tied anything or released any more information through the episodes about that. But other than we just know it's 50 years old.
Yeah, and that'll probably be the bulk of what season 2 is finding out all of those specific details about this Baby Yoda, or as they call it, the child, which is also what episode 2 was named, the child, which I thought was kind of funny that they didn't even acknowledge, the Baby Yoda thing. But then again, they named it and did all this before the internet had its say so.
Right.
But in the episode The Child, it's when we first see that this child is sensitive to the Force and can use the Force. When it was able to grab the Mudhorn and hold it up in the air and allow Mandalorian to get the upper hand. So that was pretty significant because up until this point, we thought that it was just a baby, didn't really do much like human children.
Exactly.
Right. Yep.
Or toddlers or children that grow up into teenagers. They still don't do shit.
No, they do not.
So what was your reaction, Chris, whenever you saw that this Yoda-like figure was sensitive to the Force, and what did you think the possibilities would be going forward with that character?
I was kind of excited when I first saw it. Of course, my wife absolutely fell in love with it immediately. Just, just the greatest thing in the world. So I was like, okay, well, I don't have to sell her on any more of The Mandalorian. This will be easy. You know, we have, you know, Baby Yoda coffee cups now from Tervis and all like that. And I think she's already pre-ordered the plush that'll be coming out. You know, that broke the internet when they announced it. So she's you know, all on for that. I'm. It kind of threw me for a loop because it was one of those things where this is one of those species that they've never, you know, we know so little about. Even through the expanded universe and all the books and everything else, we know more information about, you know, some of the bounty hunters like Bosch and, you know, all these other characters that you saw for literally, you know, seconds than we do about Yoda's race. So, you know, I hope they expand on it. I hope they, you know, teach us a lot more about it, give us some info, show some things and some interesting things about it. You know, my biggest fear is I'm hoping that they don't, I'm wanting like at least, I'd love to see like 3 to 4 seasons, you know, of story. I'm just hoping that they don't start, you know, Game of Throning it towards the end and just, you know, sending it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have plenty of books to draw from. They have tons of stories to tell. It's not a Game of Thrones situation where they're going to be trying to write new material as they're filming and directing shit. They have tons to draw from.
Yeah, so I'm hoping they use. Which I mean, so far they have used so many little minute details that you're like, wow, I didn't even know this, or you know, piecing together stuff. So you're like, okay, so I'm hopeful. I just don't want them to run it too long to where it starts going, all right. Plus, you know, I don't want it to overshine, even though it's going to, because it's the first Star Wars series we got. And I know that we know that there's more coming. So
what a way to set the bar, though.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if the rest of them can match this, I'm game. You know, 100% on any of them.
Yep. Which we have the Obi-Wan coming up next, or they're filming it next. I guess McGregor's taking over his role again, so that's pretty cool.
Which rightfully so. I mean, if you did it any other way, you would have to really change the timeline of what this is, because supposedly, from what I've read, this is like right after he dropped off Luke, and then the years after what he did in Exile. So, but I don't know, the child, when you see it and everything else, it's confusing a little bit, because you're just kind of like, I wonder how this is going to tie all in with, you know, because I thought this was just Mandalorian. You know, this is what we're doing here. It's going to be all Mandalorian stuff, and you threw this in, you were like, oh, okay, cool. You know, it's a good little twist. So,
but I think they did well. To this point, we still only think that this is a bounty for the Mandalorian. He's on his way to turn this thing in, and he, you know, he's even confused by his conversations that he has with the Ugnaught Khalil. It's very obvious that he doesn't know what the hell's going on, and he's intrigued. It piques his interest. And I think that was good for us as the viewer to get to see that's like, okay, well, maybe this is going to be something special. And then in episode 3, he turns around and just gives it away to the bad guys. And we're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he did. But going back on 2, how cool was it, though, that you got to see a little bit more about Jawas? Like, this is the first time we got to see the crawler, the inside of the crawler, you know?
And he was using the Jawa language.
Yeah. You know, or also with oh no, that's right. That's a further episode that I'll bring that up. I have to remember. There's so many cool little things where you like jump around. You're like, oh wait a minute, no, that's another episode. But yeah, the Jawa language was cool. You know, because it's a barter system.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then you know the payoff at the end, you were just kind of like, oh son of a bitch. You know,
egg yolk.
Yeah. You know, you went through all that to just watch him just, you know, destroy it and eat it. And you're like, what the fuck?
Yep. Risk your life so that they could have a little snack.
Yeah.
So. Crazy. You know, skipping up to episode 3 now, entitled The Sin. We knew going in, because of these little titles on all these episodes, like, ooh, something bad's going to happen in this episode. of course, Mandalorian delivered the bounty to the bad guys, if you will, and he gets his Beskar, goes and gets his armor all badass, looking all shiny, gets bad looks from everybody in the hold.
Yep, because he's which ties into the history of stuff, and really, because the whole speech about this Beskar was crafted, with on an Empire forge, so the hate that they have going against the Empire, which ties back into the Purge, which there again, if nobody knew, if you hadn't read a lot in the expanded universe or seen Rebels or all this stuff, you didn't really know much about it. So you were like, what are they kind of talking about?
Yeah, but knowing a lot of that helps out follow the storyline, because you realize, oh, they don't like him because he's dealing with the remnants of the Empire. The Empire came and slayed almost all of the Mandalorian and sent them into hiding. And that's why there are so few of them, and they don't leave by themselves. They kind of, or they don't leave as groups. They have to stay by themselves so that they don't get destroyed by people whenever they're just out and about. And it's pretty cool that they have this whole underground society, but by him doing business with the Empire, it puts them all at risk.
Yeah. And you get to see the different, I guess you would almost say like classes of Mandalorians.
Yep.
Not all of them are, wearing kind of the same armor set and the same weapon sets. The one guy, which actually was the producer of the series, was like the heavy weapons Mandalorian.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that was him in the suit. So that's pretty fun to see that he's having fun, I think, with the series as well. So
and you can tell that he's a fan. That's the
100%.
best part, is you can tell that he's a fan of the series, and he's done right by it so far.
Yeah, so far he hasn't broken any codes and done anything where I'm like, no, you lost me. You went against the whole entire network of how this is.
Now, you were talking about one of the things that was a throwback in this episode. The Beskar was kept in a very, very familiar container to a lot of Star Wars nerds. Do you know what I'm referring to? The Cloud City?
Yeah,
Ice Cream Man?
Do you know, Zach?
Not at all.
So there's a scene in that was what, Empire, where, they were evacuating Cloud City. And there's just this one extra off in the back who was running, and he was carrying an ice cream maker. But they just had to look like, they were running with something. So he was carrying this ice cream maker. Well, Star Wars nerds, they saw this guy. They were like, wait a minute, this guy's carried an ice cream maker. So it was kind of a joke. But then it spawned, like the 501st, they have, stormtroopers. Well, this guy spawned a fan club of cosplayers who dress up like him and carry around this ice cream maker. So he's always been the ice cream maker guy.
Funny.
Well, now you see, when Werner Herzog sets that on the table to pay off the Beskar, that was the ice cream maker. That's what it was. So that's what I was telling Brandon a while back when we were talking about. I was like, that's the throwback. That's how this guy is a true fan.
Right.
He threw this all the way back to a movie, 20 plus years ago, to this one little prop, and you go, oh, so yes, it was an ice cream maker essentially, and for this instance, it was used to carry valuables. So that's why you saw him running out of Cloud City carrying this, because it was carried valuables.
It just put a nice little bow on that little unraveled question for many, many years.
Perfect.
So it's pretty. Yep, it's pretty cool. Like he said, it just shows that John is a big fan and went back and took those little Easter eggs and wanted to give nods to the fans. But of course, the big climax of episode 3 was when Mandalorian breaks back into the compound and rescues the child and takes him with him for good. we got to see some of the new weapons that he was able to employ. Of course, he's used his freaking flamethrower from his wrist about every episode. I think that's his favorite. But I really like those little homing. What are they? Bees is what he calls them, I believe. That come out of his other wrist.
But yeah,
The sparrows.
The sparrows. That's right. Yeah, and they just go and attack their enemy. That's a pretty handy weapon to have.
Yes, because it was different than because if you remember Boba, he had just a standard large missile that was on his wrist, whereas his Mando's is more of what they consider like the traditional bracers. So that's why that one, because I think they even showed that in Rebels, the animated series, that weapon. So yes, it's so good. But you get to see like the armorer, which is, I thought was a really cool character. She, even cooler, as we find out later on. And just more of the society underground, which is cool. I wish they would I don't know. I wish they'd do more.
Yep. That's my gripe. Up until like the last 2 episodes, it was the adventures of Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, and there was no context and there was no backstory, and it was just an adventure, and we didn't know anything about the characters. But I think that was kind of on purpose because, like like Brandon said, I think season 2 they're going to open up on the baby's history, and now we know Mandalorian's history and where he came from and stuff like that. So
yeah, we learned that later on. But this runs almost just like any anime. You've got your main story, then filler, main story, filler. And that kind of I guess recipe.
Yeah,
so
exactly what this was. It was main story,
And
filler.
they were also giving. Sorry.
Go ahead.
They were also giving time to introduce us to all of these other new characters into the Star Wars universe. Cara, Gina Carano's character, was introduced in episode 4, and I have a strong feeling that she's going to be continuing in this series next season as well.
Yeah, I assume so as well. They became buddies, so.
And you had to introduce her at some point, but then he also had to go off and do some other things and meet some other people so that you could fill out the characters, the cast of characters, because the last 2 episodes, which were the ones that had the substance, you had to assemble everybody that you've met along the way. So I kind of get that he was jumping around to all these planets, and it kind of seemed like an adventure of the week, but it was really adding context and layers. We just didn't realize it at the time.
Yep.
So, I mentioned in episode 4, whenever he goes and meets her, she plays an ex-shock trooper, which is a really badass role for her to get to play. She gets to be that strong woman in this series that Rey was trying to be in the new trilogies. And I think it's great. I think Gina Carano is amazing, and I love that she's in the Star Wars universe. I really hope they don't make her go and be the She-Hulk.
Oh God, yeah! Don't do that to me. She's, it's too good right now. She did too good of a job. The story behind, I would love to see a couple episodes where they, which of course I guess they couldn't. They would have to do flashbacks because there is no shock troopers or drop troopers like that anymore. But I'd like to see flashbacks of that because they even touch on that towards the end. The last 2 episodes where he's like telling her he's to hide the tattoo and shit like that.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I thought that they did really well in season 1 was the flashbacks from Mando. I liked seeing him as a kid and what happened to him, and the way that they did it was perfect. You didn't need a whole episode of him as a kid to understand what happened. You got to see it in little spurts, and we all kind of pieced it together, Yeah,
you figured out why he doesn't trust droids because you picked that up right 5 minutes into the very beginning first episode on the speeder.
Yep, no droids.
No droids. Peace. Keep going.
Yeah.
But Zach, is there anything from episode 4 that you remember that stands out to you?
No, I believe we covered it.
It was just the next in the random episode of the weeks. He meets Cara Dune, and that's pretty much it. They have their little adventure.
I like the kind of the redesign at was definitely a little different. Well, that actually wasn't an at that was ATST because it was only chicken leg. So
Right, yeah, 2-leg.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, they saved a village. Some woman fell in love with Mando, and he's like, "Nah, bitch, I got things to do."
Yep.
And that's about it. Episode 5, entitled "The Gunslinger." Mandalorian meets a rookie bounty hunter and goes after a skilled assassin. The main thing that I really, really loved about this episode was when Mando tells the rookie guy, like, "Nah, she has the high ground. We
Yep.
have to wait."
Yeah.
I love that they referenced that, because Star Wars fans know from what was episode 3 when Anakin and Obi-Wan were fighting. Obi-Wan gets the high ground, and that's how he ends up leaving Anakin for dead.
Yeah.
And it was cool to kind of throw back to that line.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I texted you when I watched that episode, and I said, "See, Mando knows about the high ground."
Yep, absolutely.
Now, do you remember what planet they were on for this episode?
Was this the one where they were back on Tatooine, right?
Yes, they were back in Tatooine. They were back in the Cantina, and actually, where the the rookie bounty hunter, that's actually the same booth from Solo shot Greedo.
Yep. When the famous "Who Shot First," Han
Yep.
or Greedo.
Yep. So that's actually the same exact booth in the Cantina.
Nice.
So, and then that's just another one of those references or examples of John Favreau, however
Yeah.
you say his last name.
Yeah, I never get that.
How he's just a fan and he wants to add these little Easter eggs, these little nods to all of us Star Wars nerds that pay attention to the details. I think it's really cool that he's been doing that. Episode 6 was a fun one for me because it guest starred Bill Burr as one of the gunslingers that broke into this prison ship and had to break out one of their buddies or whatever. It was kind of cool to see Burr in there and all that stuff, but it was cool to see Mandalorian be able to pick them off one at a time at the end of the episode when he was just going through and he's like, "You motherfuckers," picked them off one at a time, stealthy, got behind them, and showed that Mandalorian's a true badass.
Yep. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, because we've seen before where it's kind of like almost Mando's got his ass kicked a few times. He has not like the walk-in Terminator kind of thing you would think a Mandalorian is. So he's, he lost a few times here and there, and so this time you get to see him, just kick ass, be super stealthy and smart. And that was the thing was for the end of that episode, I saw the twist. I saw it lining up, and my wife's watching. I was like, yeah, he left the transponder in that dude's pocket. I can already tell how this is. Dead. Sure enough, the X-wings pop out. And you're like, yeah, see what I tell you. The interesting thing was the fighter though that was coming out of that they were getting ready to send up, because we haven't got to see that in a live action before. We've only seen that fighter in the animated series before. So again, a good throwback to just stuff. But
now the weapon system that Burr used on that one, that's one that I've never seen, at least shown in a Star Wars live action or whatever, where he had the extra gun that kind of popped off of his back, so he would have the three guns.
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty cool that they were able to show that and pull that off in the Mandalorian.
well, and also get the he took the dig at the stormtroopers, their accuracy. Yeah, I wasn't a stormtrooper, asshole.
That was the first of the digs at stormtroopers that Mandalorian takes.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Yeah, that, and again, just that beat a dead horse. That's the theme of the show. They're giving nods to the fans. We love that kind of shit. That's the Star Wars humor that we love, and that's what keeps us coming back for more. But Bill Burr was great. I would love to see him back in another episode. I love that he got to be kind of the heel, the bad guy, got to be a dick.
Right.
He got to be Bill Burr.
Yeah.
He got to be Bill Burr in Star Wars.
I just didn't know that the Boston accent generated in a galaxy far, far away.
It worked. I mean, Bill Burr is one of those guys, though. As soon as you see him, you know what you're getting. I don't think you could. I mean, if you tried to have him do something different, you'd just be like, "What is this? Stop."
It's nice that they also didn't overdo it for him. Like he didn't crack a joke every 5 seconds. He was just his character, which was nice.
Yeah.
And a lot of times whenever they bring famous comedians or whatever in, they overkill it with the jokes because that's what everybody thinks of them as, is they're just the funny guy.
I didn't realize it either. The Richard what is it? Iolade. The dude. Have you ever seen? God, what was it? It's a British show, but it's like the IT crowd, or him and another guy. Anyways, he's a British comedian. In one of the shows I watched from the BBC a lot, the 8 out of 10 Cats and stuff. He's a comic, but he was the voice of Zero on that one. So that's kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. That's a nice little tidbit too. And then, after The Prisoner, of course, comes episode 7, which was basically the first part of the season finale, and it was entitled The Reckoning, and it shows one of the important things that it shows is the child's ability to bring someone back from the brink of death by giving them a piece of his life force. And that was significant because they went out of their way to release this episode on a Wednesday instead of their normal Friday, ahead of the Rise of Skywalker, because that same thing was in that movie as well. So I thought it was cool that Mandalorian was. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry if that ruins that for you.
No, it does not. I'll watch that one when it comes out on Disney Plus.
Yeah, they use the being able to revive a dead person in
the Force heal.
The Force heal, which previously you've only ever really seen it in video games and stuff like that. But I was at the theaters watching Rise of Skywalker with my buddies, and I leaned over and I was like, this is the same exact power that Anakin joined the dark side to try to learn. So, because that's what prompted him to join the dark side, is because he wanted to try to save Padme. So,
all the throwbacks.
All the throwbacks, yeah. So, but anyway, Yoda was able to do that. He revives. Was it Carl that he revived in that episode?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because he took a wound to the arm that was poisonous.
And the baby Yoda was able to heal him, and everybody realized how powerful he was, and that's what ultimately saved Mandalorian's ass at the end of this episode from getting double-crossed. But the big tragedy at the end was that the baby Yoda fell into the hands of the stormtroopers, and our friend Khalil met his end.
Yep, he did.
That was sad. He was a very good character. I really enjoyed having him. I was hoping that he would be a more regular in next season as well. But obviously they had to kill off somebody to show the danger that they were in. And he was kind of the old guy that was finally free. He was done working. He was just ready to be at peace. So it was fitting that he was the sacrificial lamb on this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was kind of cool too that they I guess gave a little more history of the Ugnug race in this episode. You kind of learned that they live for they can live for hundreds of years. They're super talented. They're almost like, I guess they would almost be like the dwarf class of the Star Wars universe, where they're very handy with their hands. They're mechanical. They can build, craft, and forge. This Ugnug looked a lot better than the ones that did in Empire Strikes Back.
Right. That's
Much
what
more
years of technology can do for you.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The other cool thing about this one was because I remember somebody bringing it up, and I had to look it up, but it was the the Imperial troop transport that came out. So you in the scene outside when they were first kind of, I guess, cornered in the little bar, there was this troop transport that rolled up that normal stormtroopers started getting out of.
Mm-hmm.
So that was actually a toy that was released in '78. That troop transport, same design and all like that. So it was released in '78 as a toy version. But this makes the first again live action appearance of it. Because when I saw it, I was like, God, I think I had that. So
That's what's kind of cool about these little offshoots that Disney Plus can do is they can pull from whatever basically they want in the universe and throw it in there, and people that remember that stuff will catch it. And hey, there's another little tidbit of fan info or whatever about the show that no one knew until somebody realized it.
Yeah, because they own it all now, so they can just pull from everything. What'd you think about the TIE fighter?
It was cool.
You mean when they blew it up, or just him flying it?
No, because this is the first time you've seen this style, this make model of TIE fighter. Most of the time,
too.
Yeah, it's larger than your standard, foldable wings. So it's almost like it had the wings of the shuttle class that they tend to use. Coming in and that one shuttle class you always saw coming in and out of the Star Destroyers and landing on Endor, with the wings fold down. So this one is really interesting. I've been looking for a Lego for it because I'm like, ooh, I want that.
When I first was watching it, I didn't look at IMDb or anything like that to see who was cast for anything. I kind of let my own theories run wild, and I thought that it was going to be Snook coming down. I thought that he would be the one that was in search of this Baby Yoda, and the reason that they were putting this particular episode out before the movie came out was because it was going to reveal that that Baby Yoda was in the universe as maybe like a teenage Yoda that helps Rey in that movie or whatever. That didn't happen. That was just my theory that I thought, whatever. So I was completely taken aback whenever it was Moff Gideon that comes down in the TIE fighter. But it was pretty badass and pretty menacing to see it as it just kind of descended into the universe and behind the big weaponry that they had laid out.
Yep.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. I don't know if they wanted to try to tie into the current Star Wars that are out too. They probably wanted to kind of, hey, you're doing, you guys are doing your thing over here.
I just thought it was so weird that they released that one episode on a Wednesday instead of a Friday.
Well, that was probably a Disney decision.
Yeah, I guess
that was probably Disney going, hey, we want you to, because they already had all these in the can ready, but they were probably like, you know what, we need to go ahead and Mandalorian is blowing up, so let's not put it up against, let's try to get as many eyes on the movie as we can and not steal a little bit from it. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Competing, Star Wars versus Star Wars.
Because honestly, I think the Mandalorian is honestly, to me, the episodes have been well done, better to me than the movies have been the last two movies. I haven't seen the third yet. So, but my expectations are not, ooh, this is going to be the one that pulls it out. No, I'm not like that. It's just like, I'll see it. So that way it ties this line up and with a nice little bow, and we can just move on.
Well, the way I feel about it, not to get too far off topic, is, the episode 8 was pretty bad, but episode 9 kind of tied it all together and made up for a lot of the shortcomings of episode 8. I liked episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. I thought it was decent. I thought it was pretty good. And I think it was a fitting conclusion to this trilogy.
Oh, good.
So I think you'll at least be able to walk away from it and be like, okay, that was decent. I'm glad that it's over, though.
Yeah. I mean, come on, I've had, space diners thrown at me and, Jar Jar and all the stuff from the first 3, just to be able to tie a little bow onto wanting to see the the one character that we've always wanted to see forever and ever and ever, and we got to see it for 15 seconds, and he said no, and then the movie was over. You were like, what the what? You know, so I'll be able to make it through this one and be like, okay, cool, thank you, good job, guys. Now give me the new, you know, Obi-Wan series on Disney Plus,
which I hear Jar Jar might be in.
Don't you do this to me?
I've heard it. I've heard it.
I think that's some trolling.
Yeah.
I hope so too, but you know, if he's more reserved, and you know, he's going to be older now, more maybe shell shocked and PTSD'd from the Clone Wars, so maybe he's a little bit more mild.
I'll take that. That would be cool.
And to get back on topic, episode 7 ends in the most horrific way for all of us, and you see that Baby Yoda is snatched up by the bad guys. Yes. I don't know how the hell they expected us to have a happy Christmas knowing that Baby Yoda was in the hands of the Empire, but they did that to us. But episode 8, Redemption, came, and holy hell, that was the perfect way to end this first season, and I loved it. It started off with the running gag of the stormtroopers not being able to shoot shit.
Yep.
Loved it. I laughed out loud whenever I saw it. I thought it was great. My wife was like, they're not hitting what they're shooting at. I'm like, that's the joke. That's why it's funny.
That's the whole point.
Yep.
The only downside to it, though, from that scene is, you know, okay, Star Wars fans, seriously, relax a little bit. You don't need to be Twitter bombing this guy's Twitter because he punched Baby Yoda in the sack and giving him death threats and shit like that because he punched a fictional character in a series. Calm down.
Right.
One of the best memes that came from all of that is something about Star Wars fans have a very, very odd place where they draw the line, and it showed Anakin getting ready to slaughter all of the younglings.
Right. That was cool. We're good with this.
And we're like, yeah, we're okay with that, but don't you dare punch Baby Yoda.
Yeah, no. Mm-mm.
Do not punch a computer-generated fake character.
Right.
Mm-mm. You can slay all the children you want, but not that.
Yeah, but not that.
Some things are sacred.
Yeah. We're even okay with Padme and Anakin's little pedophilia and all that shit going on.
That was cool. We're good with it.
Yeah, we're all right with it.
Just don't hit Baby Yoda.
Stay away
from that, nobody's going to get John Wicked. We're fine.
Which Mandalorian made it pretty clear you don't mess with Baby Yoda because they took him, and IG-11 came through on his speeder and wiped out an entire town full of stormtroopers. They made sure that Baby Yoda was in safe hands 3 minutes into this episode 8. So you didn't even have to stress it or worry very long. You were like, okay, Baby Yoda's back in good hands. We're okay. We can sit back and enjoy this episode now. What did you think of IG-11 being reprogrammed into a nurse unit and all that stuff? Did you trust it, or did you kind of think that something fucked up was going to happen?
Honestly, I'm going to go with the fucked up side. Just
Me too.
You know, history always tells you that something bad like that's going to happen. So that's what I was kind of prepping for here. And when it didn't, I was kind of like, oh, okay, cool.
And with all the foreshadowing and stuff that that they were saying about how he doesn't like droids and how he had bad experiences with them, I just knew this droid was going to do something in the end that was going to ruin the day. But contrary to what I thought, he actually saved the day, and it was pretty awesome how he did it, because we finally got to see him initiate the self-destruct sequence that they teased in episode 1.
Yep.
And that was pretty cool. The explosion was a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be.
You know, it was almost reminiscent of the, I can't remember which Terminator, but, you know, walking down the pit of lava kind of thing to do the right thing. This is, you know, their little piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
he did what he could to protect the child.
Yeah, the explosion was, you know, a little massive. They never trust me. Thermal detonators do not work like that in the video games at all.
Oh well, so that was a little Hollywood magic in there. But the coolest part of the episode was getting to see Mandalorian test out his jetpack for the first time.
Yes.
He received his jetpack from the armor after all of the Mandalorians were pretty much destroyed in their little crypt except for the armor. That kind of sucked, but we get to see him use this jetpack. And somebody that I was talking to about it was like, I don't know how he got to use it so quickly because they said that, it won't listen to him right away. And I was like, well, it really didn't. He just hit the button to make it go up, and then he used like his little bat tool essentials to latch on to the TIE fighter and used his grenades to blow it up. And then he just hovered down with his jetpack. He wasn't flying around like the other guys do.
Yeah.
It's going to set up to where we get to see something badass, and I really hope we get to see jetpack dogfights.
Yes, but I also want to see him getting his ass kicked by the jetpack, trying to get better at it a little bit. Yeah.
And I'm sure that'll happen. That'll be part of the comedy. Like he'll fly into rocks and stuff like that and crash land a few times.
Yeah.
But eventually he'll get really good at it, and we'll see a really good dogfight scene. At least I hope.
I'm good with that. I'm good. What did you think about the R2 unit on the barge? Totally different design. Never seen it before. Remember, it was just looked like a standard R2 until it stood up and it had, legs and arms, but then just an R2 body. It was kind of like, what?
Yeah, that was weird. And it lasted for like 15 seconds.
Yeah. Threw me way off. I was like, I would have never. But again, I mean, that's what's nice about live action. You get to see so many of these other. But I've never even seen that design before in any of the expanded universe or any of the, Star Wars by picture, astromech droids or anything like that. I've never seen that design. So I was kind of like, what?
It was pretty neat that they thought that it wasn't working, but then it just came to life whenever they got it out into the water, or out into the lava rather. It was pretty neat. Yeah,
we did get to see the Forge Master fight very well,
which was awesome.
Very, very well. She does very good with a hammer.
And then, at the very end, we almost made it an entire Star Wars story without the inclusion of one. But at the very end, we see the Darksaber make its appearance. And that ties into the whole Mandalorian lore that a lot of casual watchers might not even know. They're just thinking, oh, well, here's a new lightsaber that this guy has. It's black because he's a bad guy. Okay,
No.
whatever. That's not true. This thing goes way back and to
Thousands of years.
The first Mandalorian to become a Jedi got the black lightsaber.
Yes.
So it makes me think that it's setting it up for Baby Yoda to be the next Mandalorian to be a Jedi.
Oh, wow.
That's an interesting play.
I think the Mando would be that.
No, I don't
No,
think
he's not force sensitive.
He's not force sensitive.
True. Yeah.
But he's going to be training Baby Yoda as they're looking for their thing, looking for his origin or his planet or whatever. I don't think he ever finds it. I don't think he ever finds where this thing originates from. So he has no choice, according to his creed, than to train him to be a Mandalorian. And Baby Yoda becomes a Mandalorian and a Jedi.
And that's what the armor was telling him too. Like, because of our creed, you have to take this child and raise it just like we did for you. And, so that makes sense.
Yeah, clan of two. So, but what's crazy though is since he's got the Darksaber though, then that means he is by rule the basically the ruler of the planet Mandalorian.
Yeah, Mandalore. Yeah.
So it's which is really just desolate desert planet now.
Which pretty much everything in the Star Wars universe is a desolate desert planet.
Yeah. They don't have very many pretty ones.
Well,
Yeah, either that or just snowy, icy, cold planet.
not very many beaches.
No. No.
You don't have Rio de Janeiro or Ireland where it's just rolling green hills or anything like that. It's desert or ice, one or
Yeah.
the other.
Yep.
I mean, because the other planets that we've seen, well, I mean, God, what was the name of the planet that the Ewoks were on? I cannot remember. Anyways, that one was jungle. Kashyyyk, which is the one that's jungle. So I've seen 3 jungles, because Naboo was jungle.
That's true.
But that's basically it. You've got either it's desert, it's jungle, it's lava, nothing but lava. Because that's where, Anakin and them had their fight, which actually turned into where Anakin had his castle was there.
Mm-hmm.
And then ice. So yeah, there's your you get no in betweens.
All these worlds pretty much suck.
No
Yeah.
spots.
So that leads me into saying maybe in season 2 we get to see some more terrains on some planets. I would love to see them go into as they're looking for the origins of Baby Yoda, maybe go to an Ewok planet and go through another Ewok village type thing. I think that would be pretty neat because he's going to be looking, and I think they're going to nod to a lot of the different races that we've seen throughout Star Wars. So I think an Ewok village might be on the table. We might go see some of the Chewbacca type characters somewhere along the way. The Wookiees.
Yeah, we'll probably see Wookiees.
I think we're definitely going to see some cool stuff that Star Wars fans will recognize and love instantly.
Yep.
What else do you think might happen in the next season coming up?
I'm leaning more with like what you're planning on. I'm interested to see how the Darksaber ties into it. The whole Baby Yoda becoming the new Mandalorian, the next Mandalorian Jedi. That could be kind of cool, especially with the memes, because I've already seen the memes of Baby Yoda in Mandalorian armor, and to me that's just adorable as hell. I'll sign up for that.
I hope that's a major plot point in the next trilogy series of movies that they have, is that they have this badass Yoda now that's fighting for them.
Oh, dude, yeah. Well, because every time he was shooting or killing people, the look on the little Baby Yoda's face was just like, yes, die,
Yeah, he got very, very trigger happy, that's for sure.
Yeah. And hell, he tried to kill Gina Carano just when they were arm wrestling. So, he's got some, he's got it in him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It'll be great.
See him with a little jetpack flying around. So fuck your flips, Yoda. I could do this.
Right.
So
anyway,
I think I hope it's not. I hope this season 2 is not Empire Strikes Back of Mandalorian.
Right.
Give us some substance. Give us don't make this a filler season. Give us a couple more main story episodes and not too much filler. I mean, you're gonna get filler. They're always gonna have a few throwaway filler episodes, but But I'm also interested to see if season 2, if the episodes are going to get longer.
I think they may.
Yeah, I've read where they're talking about that the episodes may go to 45 to 60-minute episodes instead of the standard 30 that season 1 was.
Yeah, they most of them were about 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah,
which was a good appropriate amount of time, but every episode I felt myself wishing there was a little more.
Oh yeah,
but it was good for a once a week thing. I'm excited for season 2 to film and come out and all that stuff, and I'll be watching. I know you guys will be as well.
Yep.
But that's all that I really have for tonight. We've been on here for about an hour already, just bumping our gums about season 1. I'm sure we could talk for another hour about what we hope to see in season 2.
Oh yeah, hell, we could do another hour just going back through and little tidbits here,
the details. Yeah,
Easter egg there. I will be interested to see if season 2, if they're gonna. I think they'll probably stick to the same model where it's a weekly release.
I think they're going to do that with all of their series that they're coming out with. And I like that.
Yeah, I do with some things. Some things I don't. I know Wallow hated it. He was just like, I'm done until they're all out and I can binge it. I'm done. But from what I've read, um, a lot of the like streaming services are wanting to go back more towards that weekly thing. They want to keep you engaged longer instead of just allowing people to binge and then leave and then come back, binge and then leave. They're wanting to stretch them.
Yeah.
We need to do one on The Witcher.
I haven't watched it yet. I need to watch
You
that.
need
though.
to watch it because
Yeah.
did you play the games?
I've played Witcher 3. That's the only one I've played.
Okay, then you're okay. But yeah, that one I'm watching it now. The wife, she likes it. It's cool, but she doesn't dig into it as deep as I am, and I'm just like,
Sure.
"Dude, this is spot on with Witcher 3. So that's what I mean. If you've played 3, you'll be good.
For the coming year and stuff, Zach and I want to try to do more episodes that aren't centered around sports. Our, Monday night every week recurring podcast just is basically a sports talk show. But we really want to dig into more of stuff like this, talking about shows that we see on TV, talking about, various top 10 list episodes that we put together. I've been working on collecting data for another Star Wars episode that I want to have on May 4th. And, the big Star Wars celebration day.
Yep.
I want to do a Star Wars tournament where we seed and discuss all the Star Wars movies and see where we rank them and what the ultimate best one is based off of our rankings and seedings. If you're watching the NFL playoffs, you know that seeding doesn't mean shit because Tennessee Titans are a 6th seed and they're going to the AFC Championship game. So our Star Wars tournament might end up being The Phantom Menace as the best movie of all time. So who the fuck knows?
Right. Pound for pound. What?
Anyway, we thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure you give us a thumbs up. Hit us up in the comments. Tell us what you liked about season 1 of Mandalorian. We'd love to hear from you. Zach, Chris, you guys have anything else?
I'm good.
I'm good.
All right. To all of our regular listeners, we'll be back Monday night at 7:00, and we will be ready to talk about some sports. So we'll see you then. Peace.
Stay connected with Brandon and Zach on Facebook and Instagram at The Nest Podcast. And tune in next week for a brand new episode. And thanks for listening.